20 years ago, the environmental image of China was almost apocalyptic. Cities disappeared beneath gray smog powered by coal. Beijing residents sometimes woke up beneath pollution so severe that simply breathing outside became a health hazard. By 2006, China had overtaken the United States as the world's largest annual emitter of carbon dioxide. Then something remarkable happened. China did not stop industrializing, it began industrializing decarbonization itself. Today, China manufactures over 80% of global solar module capacity and possesses 85% of global battery manufacturing. In 2023 alone, Chinese clean energy investment reached an estimated $890 billion, representing over 10% of its economy. This is not just about environmentalism, it's a story of industrial strategy. Beijing treated green technology as economic growth. China's pollution crisis was born from the extraordinary speed of its development after economic reforms began in the late 70s. China became the world's factory, fueled by its one abundant resource, coal. American and European consumers benefited from cheap goods. But by 2013, the average PM 2.5 in Beijing reached lethal levels. The country's development model had reached a political limit. In 2014, Premier Li Keqiang made it official. China would declare war against pollution. A national campaign began. Targets were transmitted to provincial governments, power plants installed filters, and dirty facilities were relocated or closed. The results were real. Average particulate pollution fell 41% between 2014 and 2023. Beijing saw a reduction of more than half. Instead of seeing regulation only as a cost, policymakers asked, what if the environmental transition itself became a major industry? China leveraged its dense supplier networks, state-owned banks, and vast domestic market to scale green technologies. Climate tech serves several interests, reducing pollution, improving energy security, and dominating future export markets. Solar power demonstrates this strategy best. China didn't invent the technology, but it became extraordinary at scaling it. Through polysilicon, wafers, and modules, Chinese companies expanded across the entire supply chain, supported by state financing. The global cost of solar electricity fell nearly 90% since 2010. Chinese mass manufacturing played a decisive role in this decline. This challenges the stereotype that China only copies. China excels at process innovation, how to manufacture faster and with less waste. When your factories produce hundreds of millions of units, manufacturing itself becomes a gigantic research laboratory for efficiency. The battery story is similar. By 2024, China accounted for 80% of global battery cell production and 85% of capacity. It's not just one company like CATL, it's an entire ecosystem of refiners, recyclers, and thousands of suppliers built over decades. Solar, batteries, and electric vehicles are what policymakers call the new three industries powering China's growth. For years, China struggled to compete in traditional engines. EVs created a new battlefield where they could lead. By 2023, China accounted for 60% of global electric car sales. BYD even briefly overtook Tesla in battery electric sales. China's greatest advantage is the ability to scale. Clean energy now accounts for roughly 40% of its GDP growth. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle of lower costs and higher demand, making the ecosystem difficult for competitors to reproduce. While the US excels at invention and high-value services, China bet that maintaining a manufacturing ecosystem was a form of national power. China turned industrial capacity into strategic infrastructure. You can lead research while another country leads the industry. Geography is a challenge. China's best solar and wind are in the west, while demand is in the south and east. China invested heavily in ultra-high voltage transmission to move electricity thousands of kilometers with minimal loss. Nowhere is the scale more visible than in China's deserts, where projects cover enormous areas with panels and turbines. Yet a contradiction remains. Even while leading in green energy, China continues to build coal-fired power plants at high speed. China was responsible for two-thirds of new global coal capacity in 2023, commissioning another 78 gigawatts in 2025. Why? Part of the answer is energy security. Leaders fear shortages and coal plants provide dispatchable backup during peaks. Crucially, building capacity doesn't mean burning it all. Many plants now serve as backup while renewable generation expands. In 2025, China's energy-related emissions actually fell by 0.5%, the first sign that the renewable surge is working. Prices have collapsed, benefiting consumers but terrifying competitors in the West who cannot match these low margins. This has fueled a trade conflict. The US and Europe have imposed tariffs, fearing dependence on a single strategic supplier. China's success created the strategic anxiety that now encourages its competitors to imitate its own industrial policies. Western governments once criticized state support. Now they are adopting their own subsidies to reshore strategic industries. China helped make industrial policy respectable again, proving that markets alone may not build the capacity a state considers necessary. In 2020, Xi Jinping set a target for carbon neutrality by 2060. Critics argue it needs to be faster to meet global goals. China is responsible for the largest emissions today, but it is also building the tech that makes global reductions possible. China hasn't traded its old economy for a new one. It has added a gigantic clean industrial system on top of its existing one. China is both a central source of the climate problem and a central part of its technological solution. It is both villain and savior. For the US, the lesson is clear. Leadership isn't guaranteed by invention. You can discover a technology and still lose the industry. Innovation and production are not separate worlds. Solar cells and batteries improve because someone is manufacturing millions of them. Did China do this for the environment or for power? The answer is both. Health and energy security aligned with geopolitical ambition. China saw the green transition as a chance to lead the next industrial revolution, just as the West led the earlier ones. China's green transformation is one of the most important economic stories of our century. Smog was just the beginning. The result changed global prices. Solar panels and EVs are cheaper worldwide, precisely because Chinese manufacturing became competitive. The world must now balance diversifying supply chains without destroying the economies of scale that made clean tech affordable. China's rise cannot be explained through imitation. At some point, manufacturing knowledge becomes technological power. China may enter the middle of the century as the workshop of the energy transition, a hard-to-dispute green industrial power. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.